So, what's your... I know the answer to this, but let's just talk about it again because it's fun. What's your unique take on crypto and Bitcoin that describes its value that the Austrian and libertarian-minded masses that are typically involved with this typically won't like to wrap their minds around?
Right, which is the irony is that I also got interested in Bitcoin, in my opinion now, looking back, for the wrong reasons, because Bitcoin isn't really a commodity like gold. Bitcoin is much rather resembles a monetary system, kind of like we have today. You know, people always jump up and down when I start comparing Bitcoin to fiat money systems. So the caveat being, of course, I understand fiat money is based on violence and the crypto system is based on voluntary interaction. But the monetary flows are very similar.
Sorry, real quick, what the hell is going on behind you on that TV?
Sometimes it plays ads.
I
wish it was just
cut that shit out, man.
No, I would have blockchain. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So you can only come to this understanding if you understand MMT and if you understand crypto, which is very rare, you know, because most people who understand MMT don't want to bother with crypto, and the crypto people generally talk trash about MMT. But if you take the two systems and see the overlap, you can walk away with a very unique conclusion, which is that MMT actually perfectly explains the reason why something like Bitcoin, something like Ethereum, all these cryptocurrencies have value. Namely, in the MMT universe, why does a US dollar have value? It's because there's a government that one day imposed a tax and it declared that this tax has to be paid in US dollars. And so now people who need to pay their taxes, they need the US dollars. So they come to me for public employment. This is obviously a very simplified version of the story, but by and large,
which we talk about on other shows. So go please listen to the other shows. We've talked we talk about it ad nauseum and probably will continue to do so.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the general flow in the fiat money world is government imposes a tax. People need to pay the tax, so they go to the government for work. Government pays them money, which means the economy incurs a public sector deficit. And whatever money is taxed out of the economy reduces that deficit. So the taxes drive the value of the currency. It's what MMTers always say: taxes drive value, taxes drive value. In the world of cryptocurrency, it's very similar, actually, because the miners impose a fee that has to be paid in Bitcoin. So if you want to have access to the Bitcoin blockchain, you need to pay a fee in Bitcoins to the miners to get access to the blockchain and to broadcast the transaction blockchain. In Bitcoin, in the world of Bitcoin, of course, it's Bitcoin. You can only pay your Bitcoin transaction fees with Bitcoins. You can't pay them with Ethereum or with Litecoin.
Or dollars. You can't pay them with dollars either.
Dollars.
Yeah.
Right. Same applies to the Ethereum blockchain. You can only pay your gas fees in Ethereum with ethers. And so this is how the blockchain, any blockchain creates its own monetary ecosystem. People have to pay a fee in that token to get access to that blockchain. And why do they want access to that blockchain? Because having access to the blockchain gives them something of value in return. For example, broadcasting a Bitcoin transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain it gives me provides value in the sense that now a new ledger entry has been added onto the blockchain. It could also be it could be something that's not a monetary transaction. For example, I could store the hash of a document, a one-way hash of a document in the blockchain, just to prove that at that point in time, this document existed. And I will always be able to prove in the future, okay, here's a document, we recreate the hash, and it was put in the blockchain on date so-and-so at 3 o'clock or whatever. So this is the first time ever that a mechanism has been developed to prove the existence of a document in time without having to involve a centralized third party. which is amazing. This has never been around. So, and I don't think it's emphasized often enough, but this is the value of the blockchain. This is, if you want to go back to the root of why does the Bitcoin have, why does the Ether? Because all of these tokens allow you to create an entry in a decentralized, immutable, permanent ledger that doesn't require involving a third party like an escrow company or anything like
and then,
that.
This is actually a point of contention I have had in the past, which is I would argue from that description, haven't we created a little bit of a tautology? So with the ability to record a timestamp for a document aside, if we look at it and we say, okay, you need let's just talk about Bitcoin for the sake of simplicity. You need Bitcoin to access the blockchain, and access to the blockchain allows you to have Bitcoin. Well, isn't that a circular argument? And now I don't bring that up to say, okay, that I disagree. The argument that I've made is that I think that these cryptos are actually a prototype for a we'll call it a private currency, because of what they're able to do beyond that circular motion. And then, you bring up, okay, look, here's the actual service that you get from being able to access that, which is, for example, the timestamp.
Right, because that's why I say it's not circular, because the value you're getting is not Bitcoin. The value you're getting is the entry of whatever it is that you wanted to put in there, sitting there, available to pull up and reference at any time in the future.
Well, and then for clarity's sake, I think because that's a little bit hard to grasp, I think. I think Steemit is easier to grasp. Now, I'm not shilling for Steemit here. I'm not saying that Steemit is going to be the new currency, or Steem, or whatever the tokens are. With Steemit, you get access to the services provided by Steemit, which is a media boost by utilizing their token. So that's the incentive to use that currency, right?
And it's similar with Odyssey, for example. If you're watching this video on Odyssey right now, we get view rewards in a currency called library credits, which is a blockchain-based cryptocurrency. But yeah, it provides some more tangible or less abstract value than what I'm talking about when it comes to Bitcoin. But at the root of all of this, always you need to have a ledger entry that's immutable and that's decentralized, that doesn't require third-party involvement to record the transaction, or to record whatever it is that you're doing. So it always goes back. You propose it. So Satoshi proposed a network that has this capability, and then participating in the network, all these things, they're all based on the premise that the network can do these things. So
let's talk about Satoshi. Finish your thought first.
Well, just going back to, I just want people to understand this, because I think it's so underappreciated, but really the modern monetary theory, the fiat money system, the money flow in that system, taxes are imposed, people need the taxes. In the case of fiat currency, they need it so they don't get their doors kicked in and thrown in a cage. In the world of Bitcoin, it's voluntary. It's if you want to have this ledger entry capability, if you want to have decentralized, permanent, immutable ledger without involving a third party, then this is Bitcoin is your system, basically. And so that's just important to understand. I think that's where the value proposition for Bitcoin is derived from.
Right, because I think one of the things about taxes is that it really makes it difficult to use something else. I mean, let's take Bitcoin, for example, or crypto anything. Bitcoin's easier to talk about because that was the first one, and it still continues to be the big one. Is that I remember when people first started conceptualizing what might happen with Bitcoin, they were like, "Oh my God, we can transact with each other, and we don't have to pay taxes anymore." And the government was like, "Yeah."
Well, it all depends on how you handle it, right? If you're a party of two who transacts privately in secret, and you don't want to report the crypto earnings as revenue, it certainly makes it easier to do that. However, if you end up selling crypto at a profit and you get fiat back into your account, then you're always going to be scrutinized by the state.
Well,
and
you are, and then I mean, even the whole secret thing. You and I can do that with cash, with normal money, right? Or we could do it with a barter exchange or something.
Yes.
The point being is that when we have this entire tax structure and we say, okay, let's introduce a new currency to get around the currency of the state goes, oh yeah, we're in control of that too. We can make laws that apply to that too, and you still owe us taxes in dollars. If you transact in Bitcoin, you still owe us taxes in dollars, and that we you know, as you're trading, you need to basically do a like for like tax assessment for each time you make these trades, because that's the way that the laws work, and we're going to treat it like stocks and blah blah blah. You know, the point being is that tax structure there makes it more difficult for us to introduce another system.
Right. Taxation is the best way to start the origin story. And then, of course, if you have the power to do that, then you can also make loans, and then you can demand the loan repayment and enforce that. And then you have this whole banking system on top of the public finance system. That's how we have a monetary economy, basically.
Yes.
So, and then the same with Bitcoin, right? So I think you explained it very well, how
and I didn't want to, because it totally went off on a tangent that I knew that they were going to go off on.
I think it's great because crypto is a big topic, and especially a big topic amongst sort of Austrian-minded, independent, news-minded people. So you made the point that similarly with Bitcoin, the miners, they inject Bitcoin into the private sector economy, and they ask for a payment in Bitcoin if you want to get access to the blockchain, if you want to facilitate a transaction. You brought up the point about you think it's a prototype because it's
circular,
which I don't think it is.
Before. I know.
We had this conversation before. But also, I think you bring this up on occasions because it's not easy to understand that's why it's a prototype, because that doesn't hit home for most people. The fact that you pay for a permanent, immutable, decentralized entry in a blockchain, the biggest, most secure blockchain.
It's too abstract.
It's too abstract, but there's nothing I can do about that. You know, it's nothing we can. It is an abstract topic, but it is very relevant. It's very important, I think. And all the other, like when you bring up Steemit and whatever, the services where you actually you
can see it more clearly.
You use a cryptocurrency, you get a more tangible service and response, are a very poor substitute for understanding the blockchain, the decentralized Bitcoin blockchain value, because those all involve a third-party liability, human interaction. On Steemit, it involves, there has to be a Steemit blog and a server and a staff that honors your Steemit points or whatever. You know,
right.
You can get, you can upvote an article. This is all third-party interaction, all third-party liability, which is a weakness. It's a step back from where cryptocurrency has come, which is it's all cryptography. There's no third-party liability. You can publicly view the source code of the Bitcoin protocol and see how the Bitcoin blockchain functions and make a payment. If you make that payment, you will get access to the blockchain. There's no human interaction. It's all autopilot, all automatic. The human interaction is the miner running the software, but
yeah, but I think at this point now we're having a discussion of which crypto is better. I bring up Steemit not because it functions better or worse than any other crypto, but because like you just said, the service is more visible. But
in these cases where the service is more visible, it always ends up relying on third-party liability, which is it's in my opinion, it's a step back.
Oh, I agree.
And
I'm not
yeah.
disagreeing with you. I'm focusing on a different thing.
Yeah. Well,
But
just important to point out the fact that it's automated. There's no third party liability is hugely important when it comes to the
I would say this:
value of the Bitcoin token.
imagine if the Bitcoin miners, keeping all the security features and apparatuses that they have now, instead of saying, "Hey, we'll give you access to this decentralized blockchain entry," started being able to offer insurance, right? Liability insurance, property insurance, auto insurance, business insurance, professional insurance, all these different insurances, and you had to pay your premiums in Bitcoin. I think if anybody's going to create a private currency that's going to, for real, become private, they got to start there. Because insurance, if we're going to separate, the free market in the sense of the non-aggression principle. I don't mean free market in the sense that the British Empire's used it for hundreds of years, right? Versus government that has access to taxation. Obviously, taxation is kind of like cheating when you're giving value to a money supply, because I can just point a gun at you and say value it or I'll shoot you, right? But the services that taxation provides is stuff kind of like insurance. I mean, there's infrastructure. That's another one. But I mean, if you look at the court system or the welfare state or stuff like this, it's like more these fundamental boiled down services that are necessary to like keep the framework of society together. I think if a crypto starts addressing that's where I think we're going to start seeing the tension of whether or not it can make it.
But once again,
currency that people would actually adopt to use as a currency.
Yeah. But once again, you're introducing a service, insurance, that involves, in most realistic cases, involves some human liability, involves some contract that you make with an insurance agency. Now, what's going to be available more and more down the road is smart contracts, where you don't have a third-party liability other than the individual who's created the smart contract, the auditor who's gone through the smart contract and confirmed that there's no leaks, no issues, blah, blah, blah. In that case, you will have a fully automated insurance product that people will be making their insurance payments through cryptocurrency on. But I don't know how realistic it is. I do know that timestamping, like creating a timestamp machinery that generates immutable, decentralized, permanent timestamps has been going on for over 10 years and is working splendidly, and doesn't require this third-party liability thing. So it's a huge step forward. So anything that is a step forward, I think, would have to involve this elimination of third-party liability. Everything else will just be services that are running on top of, they're utilizing the system, but they're still run by humans at the end of the day, still run by companies who are seeking revenues, who have expenses, who have liabilities, who may fail, may not. So
right. And then
of course,
I definitely don't want to make it seem to I don't want to say and make it seem like I'm suggesting that that's all that needs to happen for a private currency to take off. I don't know what needs to happen for a private currency to take off because we've never seen it before, right?
Yeah.
But I suspect that it will.
Well, I think Bitcoin has done a pretty decent job at it so far, all things considered.
I agree with you, but let me say it this way. Nobody right now is walking around and paying for everything in Bitcoin. And even if they are making a lot of transactions in Bitcoin, it's still being valued in whatever their unit of account is in whatever country they are.
Well, there are people walking around and paying for things in Bitcoin.
Yeah, but I mean, when are the things that they're paying for valued in Bitcoin, or are they valued in dollars? And then
valued in dollars.
Yeah, and then you need to pay however many Bitcoin that the Bitcoin's worth in dollars at that time.
Right. Sure. That's a function of the volatility, which is a function of the stage that we're in.
Yeah, I the stage, exactly. So my point is, once the crypto, whether it's Bitcoin or anything else, this is my argument, gets involved with what governments traditionally have provided services for, whether that's legal stuff, arbitration, building roads, title, that sort of stuff. Once it starts creeping, getting more and more of that, I think those are the services that are needed to really push this over, as opposed to, say, Steam It, which is this dorky media thing, right?
Right. So you're looking for practical applications, and that's what would happen, right? If crypto is this new private currency thing that makes everything decentralized, then you would expect to see something like what you just said as one of the practical implications of the permeation of the whole economy by such a cryptocurrency. The whole economy would have to become more decentralized, and yes, there would have to be government services would have to be made obsolete by means of utilizing.
Well, and then now that I think about it, what's the difference between a Chuck E. Cheese token and a U.S. dollar? Oh, you're from Germany. Do you even know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, the Chuck E. Cheese you can only use in the Chuck E. Cheeses.
Exactly.
US dollar token.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
US dollar token you can use at Chuck E. Cheese, but also outside of Chuck E. Cheese, and in between the different Chuck E. Cheese, if you want to, have a medium to convert your token to temporarily, do that. You cash out at Chuck E. Cheese, and then you cash in at the next one, I guess.
Right. So my point being is that we've talked about this before, and like the MMTers will bring this up. Anybody can make a money.
Yeah.
Who's going to accept it? And stuff like tokens, casino chips, gift cards, all this sort of stuff are perfect examples of private money, nothing to do with crypto, in action. The difference is
airline miles,
whatever, right? The difference is whatever. And all these things, you only have a very limited access to what those services are, and those services aren't universally valued enough. Here's my argument: where someone would, no one's going to accept a Chuck E. Cheese token because they're like, I'm not 8, I don't care, right? No, some people won't accept Steam It because they're like, I don't care about this stupid website. If everybody's paying their insurance premiums, or everybody's paying their legal fees, or everybody's paying whatever in this token, I think we start getting back to the point where we talked about, when I was 12, did I fill out a tax return, and therefore I valued the money because I wasn't paying taxes directly with it. No, but everybody else was.
Right.
Right. I think that there has to be a tipping point where the service is so ubiquitous.
Yeah.
That we get closer to that.
Well, for example, the process of making a Bitcoin transaction is something that happens thousands and thousands of times daily in the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Right.
And every time there's a fee, every time there's a payment made to the Bitcoin government, the miners.
Yeah.
In order for the service of getting access to the blockchain, basically, so that is the most universally demanded service in an economy, is payments, really. So you could argue that this token is needed for one of the most basic things that happen in an economy, which is a transaction. But yeah, it's certainly there's going to be more and more payments, more and more services, hopefully, that are on-chain or that are semi-automated, maybe some of them completely automated smart contracts, where people will make payments with a crypto token.
If everybody who's watching this now or recording could like, share, and subscribe it helps us out a lot.
Yeah.
I hate saying it, but it's just true.